Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, Grave Peril. Today, we be on chapter 24. I know, not a good accent. But anyway, here we go, on to chapter 24. If you've missed any of the other chapters, or if you've missed any of the other books, please do look in the previous. And here we go. Michael parked his truck on the street outside Bianca's mansion. He put the keys in his leather belt pouch and buttoned it with a silver cross button. Then he straightened the collar of his doublet, which showed through the neck of the male, and reached behind the seat for the steel helmet that slipped on over his head. "Tell me again, Harry, why this is a good idea? Why are we going to a masquerade ball with a bunch of monsters?" "Everything points us this way," I said. "How?" I took a breath, trying to be patient, and passed him the white cloak. "Look, we know that someone's been stirring up the spirit world. We know that they did it in order to create this nightmare that's been after us. We know that the girl Lydia was connected with the nightmare somehow." "Yes," Michael said. "All right." "Bianca," I said, "sent out her thugs to take Lydia, and Bianca's hosting a party for the nastiest bad guys in the region. Stallings told me that people have been going missing off the streets. They've probably been taken for food or something. Even if Bianca isn't behind it, and I'm not saying she isn't, chances are that anyone who could be is going to be at that party tonight." "And you think you'll be able to spot them?" Michael asked. "Pretty sure," I responded. "All I have to do is get close enough to touch them, to feel their aura. I felt whoever was backing the nightmare when they helped it get away from me. I should be able to tell when I feel them again." "I do not like it," Michael said. "Why didn't the nightmare come after you the minute the sun went down?" "Maybe I scared it. I cut it up a little bit." Michael frowned. "I still don't like it. There are going to be dozens of things in there that have no right to exist in this world. It will be like walking into a room full of wolves." "All you have to do," I said, "is keep your mouth shut and watch my back. The bad guys have to play by the rules tonight. We've been given the protection of the old laws of hospitality. If Bianca doesn't respect that, it's going to kill her reputation in front of her guests and the vampire court." "I will protect you, Harry," Michael said, "as I will protect anyone who these things threaten." "We don't need any fights, Michael. That's not why we're here." He looked out the truck window and set his jaw. "I mean it, Michael. It's their turf. There's probably going to be bad stuff inside, but we have to keep the big picture in focus here." "The big picture?" he said. "Harry, if there's someone in there that needs my help, they're getting it." "Michael, if we break the truce first, we're open game. You could get us both killed." He turned to look at me. His eyes were granite. "I am what I am, Harry." I threw my arms up in the air and banged my hands on the roof of the truck. "There are people who could get killed if we mess this up. It isn't only our lives we're talking about here." "I know," he said. "My family are some of them. But that doesn't change anything." "Michael," I said, "I'm not asking you to smile and chat and get cozy. Just keep quiet and stay out of the way. Don't shove a crucifix down any throats. That's all I'm asking." "I won't stand by, Harry," he said. "I can't." He frowned and said, "I don't think you can, either." I glared at him. "Hell's bells, Michael. I don't want to die here." "Nor do I." "We must have faith." "Great," I said. "That's just great." "Harry, will you join me in prayer?" I blinked at him. A what? A prayer, Michael said. I'd like to talk to him for a moment. He half smiled at me. You don't have to say anything. You just have to stay quiet and stay out of the way. He then bowed his head. I squinted out the window of the truck, silent. I don't have anything against God. Far from it. But I don't understand him. And I don't trust a lot of the people that go around claiming they're working in his best interests. Fairies and vampires and whatnot, those I can fathom. Even demons. Sometimes even the fallen. I can understand why they do what they do. But I don't understand God. I don't understand how he could see the people treat one another and not chalk up the whole human race as a bad idea. I guess he's just bigger about it than I would be. Lord, Michael said, we walk into darkness now. Our enemies will surround us. Please help make us strong enough to do what needs to be done. Amen. Just that. No fancy language, no flashy beseeching the Almighty for aid, just quiet words about what he wanted to get done, and a request that God would be on his side, on our side. Simple words, and yet power surrounded him like a cloud of fine mist, prickling along my arms and my neck. Faith. I calmed down a little bit. We had a lot going for us. We could do this. Michael looked up at me and nodded. All right, he said. I'm ready. How do I look? I asked him. He smiled, white teeth showing. You're going to turn heads, that's for sure. I had to smile back at him. Okay, I said. Let's party. I got out of the truck and started walking toward the gates around Bianca's estate. Michael buckled on the white cloak with its red cross as he went. He had a matching surcoat, boots, and armored guards on his shoulders. He had a pair of heavy gauntlets tucked through his boots and wore a pair of knives on his belts on either side. He smelled like steel and he clanked a little bit when he walked. It sounded comforting, in a friendly, dreadnought kind of way. It would have been more stylish to drive up through the gates and have a valet park the truck, but Michael didn't want to hand over his truck to vampires. I didn't blame him on that. I wouldn't trust a blood-sucking, night-stalking fiend of the shadows valet either. The gate had an honest-to-goodness guardhouse, with a pair of guards. Neither one of them looked like they were carrying guns, but they held themselves with the armed arrogance that neither myself nor Michael missed. I held up the invitation, and they let us in. We walked up the drive to the house. The black limo pulled along the drive as we did, and we had to step off to the side to let it pass. When we got to the front of the house, the occupants were just getting out of the car. The driver came around to the rear door of the limo and opened it. Music washed out, something loud and hard. There was a moment's pause, and then a man glided out of the limo. He was tall, pale as a statue. Stubble hair fell in tousled curls to his shoulders. He was dressed in a pair of opalescent butterfly wings that rose from his shoulders, fastened to him by some mysterious mechanism. He wore white leather gloves, their gauntlet cuffs decorated in winding silver designs, and similar designs were set around his calves, down to his sandals. At his side hung a sword, delicately made, the handle wrought as though out of glass. The only other thing he had on was a loincloth of some sort, white cloth. He had the body for it, muscle, but not too much of it, good set of shoulders, and the pale skin wasn't darkened anywhere by hair. Hell's bells! I noticed how good he looked. The man smiled, bright enough for a toothpaste commercial, then reached a hand back down to the car. A pair of gorgeous legs and pink high heels slid out of the car, followed by a slender and scrumptious girl barely covered in flower petals. She had a short, tight skirt made out of them. The more petals cupped her breasts like delicate hands. Other than that, and the baby's breath woven into the tumbled mass of her black hair, she wore nothing. And she wore it well. In heels, she might have been 5'7", and she had a face that made me think she was both lovely and sweet. Her cheeks were flushed in a delicate pink blush, vibrant and alive. Her lips parted, and she had a look to her eyes that told me she was on something. "Harry," Michael said, "you're drooling." "I'm not drooling," I said. "That girl can't be 19 years old." "I'm not drooling." I scowled, gripped my cane in my hand, and stalked on up the driveway to the house, and wiped at my mouth with my sleeve, just in case. The man turned toward me with both his eyebrows lifted. He looked me and my costume up and down, and said, bursting out in a rich, rolling laugh, "Oh, my! You must be Harry Dresden," he said. That got my hackles up. It always bugs me when someone knows me and I don't know them. "Yeah," I said, "that's me. Who the hell are you?" If the hostility bothered him, it didn't bother his smile. The girl with him slipped beneath his left arm and nestled against him, watching me with stoned eyes. "Oh, of course," he said. "I forgot that you probably know very little of the intricacies of the court. My name is Thomas, of House Wraith, of the White Court." "White Court?" I said. "3 vampire courts," Michael supplied. "Black, red, and white." "I knew that." Michael shrugged one shoulder. "Sorry." Thomas smiled. "Well, only 2, for all practical purposes. The Black Court has fallen on hard times of late. Those poor darlings." His tone of voice suggested muted glee rather than pity. "Mr. Dresden, allow me to introduce Justine." Justine, the girl beneath his arm, gave me a sweet smile. I half expected her to extend her hand to me to be kissed, but she didn't. She just molded her body to Thomas's in what looked like a most pleasant fashion. "Charmed," I said. "This is Michael." "Michael?" Thomas mused and studied the man up and down. "Dressed as a Knight Templar?" "Something like that," Michael said. "How ironic," Thomas said. His eyes returned to me and the smile widened. "And you, Mr. Dresden, your costume is... well, it's going to make quite a stir." "Why, thank you. Shall we go inside?" "Oh, let's." We all trooped up the front stairs, affording me an uncomfortable proximate view of Justine's legs along the way. Lean and lovely, and made for doing things that had nothing to do with locomotion. A pair of tuxedo-clad doormen who looked human swung open the mansion's doors for us. The entry hall of Bianca's mansion had been redecorated since last time I had been there. The old-style decor had been lavishly restored. She had marble laid out instead of gleaming hardwood. All the doorways stood in graceful arches rather than solid rectangles. Alcoves every 10 feet or so sported small statuary and other pieces of arts. It was lit only by the spots on each alcove, creating deep pools of shadows between. "Rather tacky," Thomas sniffed, his butterfly wings quivering. "Have you been to any court functions before, Mr. Dresden? Are you aware of the etiquette?" "Not really," I said. "But it had better not involve anyone drinking anyone else's bodily fluids, particularly mine." Thomas laughed richly. "No, no." "Well," he admitted, "not formally, in any case, though there will be ample opportunity to indulge if that's what you wish." His fingers caressed the girl's waist again, and she focused her eyes on me in a disconcerting, intent fashion. I don't think so. What do I need to know? Well, we're all outsiders, not being members of the Red Court, and this is a Red function. First, we'll be presented to the company, and they'll have a chance to come meet us. Mingle, eh? Just so. Afterwards, we'll be presented to Bianca herself, and she, in turn, will give us a gift. A gift? I asked. She's the hosting party. Of course, she'll be giving gifts. He smiled at me. It's only civilized. I eyed him. I wasn't used to vampires being chatty. Why are you being so helpful? He laid his fingers upon his chest, lifting his eyebrows in a perfectly executed "Who, me?" expression. Why, Mr. Dresden, why should I not help you? You're a vampire. So I am, he said, but I'm afraid I'm not a terribly good one. He gave me a sunny smile and said, of course, I could also be lying. I snorted. So, Mr. Dresden, rumor had it you had refused Bianca's invitation. I had. What changed your mind? Business. Business? Thomas asked. You're here on business? I shrugged. Something like that. I stripped off my gloves, trying to look casual, but offered him my hand. Thanks again. His head tilted to one side, and he narrowed his eyes. He looked down at my hand and then back up at me, his gaze calculating, before trading grips with me. There was a faint flickering aura about him. I felt it dance and glide over my skin like a soft, cool wind. It felt odd, different than the energy that surrounded a human practitioner, and nothing like the sense of whatever had been pumping up that nightmare. Thomas wasn't my man. I must have relaxed visibly because he smiled and said, I passed the test, eh? I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever you say, you're an odd duck, Harry Dresden. But I do like you. And with that, he and his escort turned and glided together down the length of the entry hall and through the curtained doors at the far end. I glowered after them. Anything? Michael said. He's clean, I said. Relatively speaking. Must be someone else here. You'll get a chance to do some handshaking, it sounds like, Michael said. Yeah. You ready? Lord willing, Michael said. We started together down the hall and through the curtained doorway and emerged into a vampire party central. We stood on a concrete deck, elevated 10 feet off the rest of the vast outdoor courtyard. Music flowed up from below. People crowded the courtyard in a blur of color and motion, talk and costume, like some kind of impressionist painting. Glowing globes rested on the wire stands here and there, giving the place a sort of torch-lit mystique. A dais opposite the entryway we stood in rose up several feet higher in the air, a suspiciously throne-like chair upon it. I had just started to take in details when a brilliant white light flooded my eyes, and I had to lift a hand against it. The music died down a bit, and the chatter of people quieted some. Evidently, Michael and I had just become the center of attention. A servant stepped forward and asked calmly, May I have your invitation, sir? I passed it over, and a moment later heard the same voice over a modest public address system. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I am pleased to present Harry Dresden, Wizard of the White Council, and guest. I lowered my hands and the voices fell completely silent. From either side of the throne opposite, a pair of spotlights glared at me. I shrugged my shoulders to get my cape to fall into place correctly, tattered red lining flashing against the black cotton exterior. The collar of the thing came up high on either side of my face. The spot glared off of the painted gold plastic medallion I wore at my throat. The worn powder blue tux beneath it could have been made an appearance at someone's prom in the 70s. The servants at the party had better tux than I did. I made sure to smile so that they could see the cheap plastic fangs. I suppose the spotlight must have bleached my face out to ghostly whiteness, especially with the white clown makeup I had on. The fake blood drooling out the corners of my mouth would be standing out bright red against it. I lifted a white-gloved hand and said, slurring a little through the fangs, "Hi, how are you all doing?" My words rang out on deathly silence from below. "I still can't believe," Michael said, sort of voice, "that you came to the Vampire's Masquerade Ball dressed as a vampire." "Not just a vampire," I said, "but a cheesy vampire." Do you think they got the point? I managed to peer past the spotlights enough to make out Thomas and Justine at the foot of the stairs. Thomas was staring around at me at the courtyard with undisguised glee, then flashed me a smile and 2 thumbs up. "I think," Michael said, "that you've just insulted everyone here. I'm here to find a monster, not make nice with them. Besides, I never wanted to come to this stupid party in the first place. All the same, I think you've peeved them off." Peeved? Come on, how bad could that be? Peeved? From the courtyard below came several distinct sounds, a few hisses, the rasp of steel as someone's drew knives, or maybe swords, a nervous click-clack of someone with a semi-automatic working the slide. Michael shrugged in his cloak, and I sensed more than saw him put his hand on the hilt of one of his knives. I think we are about to find out. Thank you very much for listening to Chapter 24. Please do stay tuned. I'm sure you'll want to find out what happens at the rest of the Masquerade Ball. I know I do. Please also do give me thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I will try really hard to keep getting these out as quick as I can. I'm working about 80-90 hours a week, so it's getting really hard to during. If I do slow down again this winter, it'll pick up quite a bit again. We've got a few road trips planned where I'm hoping I can maybe get some time to do some. If not, I will get some other videos out there. Anyway, please do thumbs up, like, subscribe, and let's keep these things going. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.